Okay, this is Bigfoot Encounter 2, which these I'm not really doing these in order, but I'm at my home and my oldest brother calls me up and goes, Brian wants to take the canoes down the river, go camping. I'm going, okay. And Brian is crazy, so my oldest brother didn't want to go with his friend on this canoeing trip. So he comes and he picks me up. And I'm like, Brian, where are we going? And of course, I get about 5 or 10 or 15 minutes to get my gear ready because we got to leave now. We got to get there, before get down all this before it gets dark. So we head up to 421 to Wilkesboro. As soon as you go across Wilkesboro up there at that flashing light, you coming out of Wilkesboro, you take a right. I believe it's the Yadkin River. I'm not positive. It's like Deliverance. So he drives us down there. I don't know if he called ahead and had people drive his car or what. So he's got me loaded up in an LL Bean canoe, fully loaded. I don't even think you were allowed to drink out there. I'm not positive on that. But fully loaded, to where, it's like really heavy. The water's not, but, yay before you're going to swamp, which I've ridden all sorts of canoes. So I'm in the middle of this thing. And then he's in his other, I believe it's a kayak. Everybody else is in a kayak. So we're going down this river. It's really rough. We get off. We go off. I'm staying off to the far left side to avoid rapids and everything. And told that we're going down this little halfway down here. There's going to be a campsite off to the right. And I'm like, okay. And this guy comes up to me in a kayak. He's a real good canoeer. He goes, boy, what are you doing? I said, oh, my buddy got me into this. We're supposed to be camping out here on the right here in a little bit. This is rough as can be. He says, do you see anybody else in a canoe? It's like, no, I've canoed my whole life. I see no other canoes. This is really dangerous. So, right at the part we're supposed to get off, I barely get over to the right and get the canoe over. And we pull off at this little spot. And when I say little spot, it's not but like, like 50 by 50 yards, just a little spot right off the river. We pull up, we get camp going and everything. Turns dark. And my buddy Brian decides that he's going to whip out his gun that's got the laser on it or whatever. He's shining this thing everywhere. And I'm going, Brian, this backs up to somebody's farm. If they're gonna know what you're doing if they see your laser, and if there's Bigfoot or anything like out that, they're gonna know too. Would you just go to bed, Brian? Which I wanted to pitch the tents up near the fireplace. The tents were pitched near the river. Very dangerous. So finally, Brian goes to bed. We have a fire up there, and a huge storm comes in. The river goes up, and what feels to me like a huge Sasquatch uh, sleeps next to me, side to side, back to back. He's on the outside of the tent. I'm on the inside of the tent. All of a sudden, right before dawn, the Sasquatch is pushing me. It's got the hand of like a huge pitcher's mitt, pushing on me, and I wake up. And I go, Brian, get up. Brian, get up. He goes, what is it? There's water coming into the tent. We get out of the tent just in time, pull the tent up before it engulfs. The canoes are about to go into or in the river, whatever. I grab them right at the last minute. What was so weird about the canoes is the river was like rushing, but where the canoes are, it was like it was all glassy, almost as if Sasquatch was under there holding the canoes. And I grabbed them at the last minute and pulled them up. Of course, we'd pulled the tent up and everything. I'm like, grab the canoes, Brian. Brian, grab the fucking canoes. We finally get the canoes up and everything, and the fire was there, and the river came up so much that it just went right over the fire. Just put it right out. And of course, as crazy as Brian wanted to be, he wanted to go. He wanted to go down the river. And the sun was coming out, and I said, "No, we're going to wait at least 2 or 3 hours before we even attempt to get out there in the river." And so we watched the river go down about from 3 feet to 2, maybe a foot. And so we continued down the river. And we finally made it to where the farmers were there overlooking us. We pulled over. And the one guy was shaking his head. And we got the canoes in the van. He brought us back in his van and everything. We tipped him or whatever. Brought us back to our car, but he was explaining to us how people never made it out of there. And yeah, that happened. And Brian's crazy. But I'm to this day convinced that Sasquatch saved our lives. So, true story. And thank you, the farmer guys there. I believe it's the Yadkin River that saved our lives, brought us back to our car. If it wasn't for you, we would have probably died. Yeah.